Alright folks, this is the Lenovo Legion 5i Pro. This is an Intel-based gaming laptop with a 16-inch Quad HD display running at 165 Hz with HDR support. This is an awesome laptop. I'm going to give you a tour of the outside, talk to you about the I/O and performance. Of course, I'm going to show you some actual gameplay footage real time here, playing Doom Eternal, fire up some Resident Evil Village, and maybe some other stuff. We'll see. There are some flaws, which I'll get to, like for example, the backlighting on the keyboard isn't very strong, but there's also just a ton of overwhelming positives with this laptop. And for me, like the theme of this video is going to be like just aggressive design, which I think is cool. This looks like a Corvette. And back in the day before Lenovo had their Legion line, they were making gaming laptops, the Y series IdeaPads. And they had this cool black and red thing going on with like aggressive venting, and it kind of looked like the Knight Rider car, you know, from back in the day when Knight Rider was cool. So let's talk about like all of your options and what you can get built in here. So first of all, you can spec this as low as an i5-11-4000H CPU from Intel with a 3050. I have the 3050 model, but it has 16 gigs of RAM and an i7 in the one that I tested, and that one I believe is $17.99. So one thing to keep in mind though is that Lenovo has a lot of discounts all the time, so just these prices are MSRP, and even though we've got like supply shortages and stuff like that, there are still sales and discounts running like in real time at Lenovo's website and their partner sites. So yeah, you can't walk into Best Buy and get this because they don't tend to carry Legions, but you can go to Lenovo's website and get a pretty good deal. Alright, you can spec it as high as a 3070. I don't know the TDP because it's not on the website, but I know the TDP of this guy with a 3050 is only 95 watts. Now, you're going to see in the video that I actually got pretty decent performance out of this playing Doom Eternal, which is a well-optimized game, you know, but still, it played great. It's a popular game. You probably want to play it or have played it, so you came to the right place. All right, let's talk about that design, and I'll give you a tour, talk about the I/O. So first of all, back is the Lenovo Y logo. This does light up. You can turn it off. I think it looks awesome. And I'm going to say a lot of positive things here as we go through. So I'm going to say awesome many times. All right, what's not awesome is that on the lip does not have the Legion branding, which I really like. Also, this is a weak hinge. It's a weak setting here. The hinge is actually fine, but this is very weak. It doesn't take a lot for me to open this up. That was a problem in last year's 5 and 7 series laptops. I own the 7 series from last year, and it had a hinge problem. This does not have the hinge problem. This has been completely corrected, and for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, the hinge problem is that back in last year's model, the hinge was so weak that the slightest rocking would wake the laptop from sleep. That's not happening here. 100% tested the crap out of it, not a problem. Okay, on the left side you have a headphone jack and a USB-C port. This is Thunderbolt, and then check out just the rear on this thing. I mean, this is super, super cool. I love the design here where the I/O is labeled from the top, including the power, which wasn't labeled in last year's models, which doesn't make sense. Everything else was labeled and backlit, so you can see it in the dark. Yeah, power, 3 USB-As, full-size HDMI, Thunderbolt USB-C, and Ethernet ports. That's freaking awesome. Okay, a little subtle. Hopefully it'll come through here in the video. I know we got a focus issue. There is a Y logo on the hinge, USB-A, and a camera shutter, so you can just turn that camera off. Now, if you're interested, this is what the bottom looks like. It's a standard laptop bottom, ABS plastics. Here on the foot, it does say Legion, which I think looks super dope. Okay, opening it up. It'll probably turn on. Yep. You can kind of see the backlighting. Don't worry, I've got a video segment coming up where it shows the backlighting in the dark, and you can see that it's very weak. It is 4-stage backlighting. I'll explain that in that part of the video. The trackpad is not fantastic. It just doesn't feel good. I mean, clicking and everything is fine. It's a mechanical click, but it just, you can't click everywhere, and you know, it's not comparable with something like a Razer Blade or a MacBook. It's just not quite there. So you're going to want to use a mouse. Now also, this trackpad is displaced a little bit to the left. It's not dead center with the laptop because Lenovo opted for a number pad, and in doing so, they also kept full-sized arrow keys. So if they were to shorten these arrow keys and then lift it up and make it uniform here or flat, they would have had room for the trackpad. Hey, it is what it is. Some people love having full-sized arrow keys. I would prefer no arrow keys. I don't use them. So what are you going to do? They aim for, you know, making most people happy. All right. One thing to notice, and there's some language here about it, the the power settings can be managed physically. So you don't have to necessarily go into the Lenovo Vantage software, which is very good, to adjust the power settings. You can do it right here by holding down Function and pressing Q. When you do that, you're going to notice, hopefully this comes through, that this power button light changes from kind of like a white or a teal-ish color to blue. Now, the blue means it's in quiet mode, so the display dims and it kind of goes into a low power state. The fans don't spin very much at all. Now we're back to the white, and this is an automatic mode, so it's going to adjust the fans based on the current temperatures of the CPU and the GPU. And then you can press it again to get to red. For some reason it's not working, but there is a red, trust me, and that puts it into high performance insane mode, and it's pretty awesome. So gone are the days of the turbo buttons that Lenovo used to put on their gaming laptops, and now we've got this. This has been around for, I want to say two model years now, maybe 3. But it's a really good feature if you're looking for that type of thing. And one of the cool things that Lenovo does with other laptops is you hold down Function and it will light up all the keys that have special functions like Q does, but they didn't bring that over in this one, I think because they went with the 4-zone lighting. There's also a single zone lighting, but there isn't a per key option. All right, so the display is great. It's 16-inch quad HD. It looks fantastic. Color representation is very strong too. And just doing things like opening up Microsoft Office apps, opening a browser and browsing around, all fantastic. And I've gotten a couple of comments. People are like, hey, why do you care about how fast Word opens up? Doesn't Word always open up fast on modern laptops? The answer is no. For example, I've got a MacBook Pro, and with the M1 processor, and Word opens in like 5 to 9 seconds if I'm lucky. Sometimes it's more than that. I'm not alone. So it's important to call these things out when you're trying to make decisions. I'm sure if you're watching this video about a gaming laptop, you're not considering a Mac, but you are probably somebody who also has to get work done, in which case you want to know that this laptop is going to be fine for doing work. And it truly is, especially with this 16-inch, 16:10 ratio display with the HDR and strong brightness. Even on the lower end model, the 3050, still get a very good panel. You're going to be able to do your work just fine. All right, I'm going to pause now, show you the backlighting, show you some gameplay, and then we'll wrap it up. Thanks. So this is what we have for backlighting. There are 2 models. You can get a single zone, which is less expensive, or the 4-zone. I'm sure that the keyboards are probably attached to the CPUs, the GPUs. There are a number of different configurations that you can do within Lenovo's builder. But, you know, beggars can't be choosers. There's a shortage of these things, as you would imagine. So holding Function and pressing spacebar will change a few of the preset coloring options. Hopefully this is coming through, but you have blue, orange, yellow, and green as the 4 zones. If I press it again, it goes back to a solid color. And of course, you can adjust the brightness of it by finding the correct button, which I'm struggling to do. Maybe you can't on this model. You know, most Lenovo models, you hold down Function and you press down, and then it will lower the brightness. But here it looks like you don't really have that option. All right, so that's the keyboard. It's not super bright. I don't really like the backlighting that they did. It seems like almost like a lazy approach. They just put some lights underneath the keyboard and said on or off. Whereas a lot of other Lenovo keyboards, not to take the conversation outside of Lenovo, right? But like Razer and other brands, they seem to have more intentional lighting where they really focus on getting the keys lit up. This seems like they're just lighting up the deck. I hope that makes sense. All right, let's look at some. All right, folks, we got Resident Evil Village. Awesome shooter. At 165 hertz max refresh rate, screen resolution at 2560 by 1600. VSync, we're going to disable that. And man, we are overloading the graphics memory. This is the RTX 3050, so you shouldn't expect a lot out of this as a pedestrian GPU, but hopefully we can get some decent frame rates out of this. I've got the frame rate counter in the top left. I don't know if that's coming through or not, so I'll just read it out to you guys here and there. Right now I'm getting 123 frames per second. Let me just do a quick check on the actual graphics settings to see what we're doing here. Image quality 1. Can we get like a low, medium, high thing going here? Okay, ray tracing is off. Mesh quality is at low. Texture quality is at medium. Texture filter quality also at medium. And we're pretty much looking at low spec right here, like low and medium and a lot of things turned off. And we're getting over 100 FPS. So we could probably crank up a couple of things. But, you know, let's just go ahead and run with it. I mean, it looks good, so there's always that. Now, we're not really into the action, but there's a lot going on in the game. Still at 120 frames per second. Got some bad guys. I don't have any weapons, or do I? This is my save from back in June when I finished this game. All right, we're getting into it now. 113 frames per second. That is really strong. All right, now once I go through this dark wood here, we're going to get to the final cutscene, so that could be a big spoiler, final battle. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this off now after I kill these guys because for some reason I think it matters. All right, let's fire up another game. All right, here we are with Doom Eternal. I've set the preset to medium settings. I am running in native resolution. I just have to. It's the way I'm wired. A lot of things are turned off like DLSS, motion blurs down to low, triple buffering is enabled on VSync, and let's see what we can get out of this. All right, here we go. 79, 107, 112, 111. This is where we came from, so that's not the right way. This is really smooth. It's hopefully coming through on the video. Here, let's blow something up. Right now we're at 97, dropped to 78, then to 85, and now it's back up to 102. So obviously, as you can tell, this looks really good. No real issue with performance. This is something I can live with. I'd be happy driving this laptop, playing Doom Eternal at this level. Doom Eternal is a very well optimized game, of course, but yeah, this is solid. Hey. Right, so that is the gameplay that you'll experience with the Legion 5i Pro. As you can tell, this 3050 model, this is not a beast GPU, right? So this laptop has an aggressive design that I think looks really cool. It's like a Corvette, but yeah, it doesn't have the most power in the world. But you can spec it up if you can find it with a 3060 or 3070. This 3050 only has 95 watts of power going to it. That's the TDP rating, so, or the max TDP. So yeah, it's not a lot, but you can get away with playing Doom Eternal at native resolution QHD and get 100 frames per second playing it on medium. It still looks really good, and you're getting a ton of frames to support this 165 hertz display. So it's a good combination, especially if you like the way it looks, because there really isn't anything else out there on the market that has quite this look. I know there's like the Acer Nitro, for example, but I think Lenovo does it best with their lines and their angles, and then of course just the overall build quality is strong. The reputation of Lenovo is pretty darn good, so I don't think you'll be disappointed with this purchase. But as you also saw, the backlighting wasn't phenomenal, and the trackpad experience isn't very good, but the keyboard is good. There's always compromises. There's some objective things we can look at, like how powerful is the GPU, and there's some subjective things like the design. So anyhow, hopefully you found this helpful. Huge thanks to Lenovo for sending it over for review. I'm probably going to take my time before I send it back. I just like using it. It's a really cool design. And yeah, thanks a lot for your time, folks. Catch you on the next one.